Hello, pokea simu, Betty baby. Hello, nakupenda sana. Hello mama, hello, wapi baby, mabeti tano. Hello, nakutaka sana. Oh mama, oh mama.
Hey maze. Asante sana, asante. Hello and welcome to another classic episode of the Weekend Edition. I'm your host, Dr. Kingori. Before I tell you about the wonderful topic we have prepared you on this one, a very beautiful story, by the way, that includes an incident whereby a 15-bob item at a Kakamega hospital saved the life of a mother and her twins. Ni story najua mtapenda sana. But first, a few things we need to get out of the way. I believe by now you're all familiar na Mchungaji Victor.
I see President asking for peace. People tu ni kuandamana kabisa. And they said, I'm a Kenyan.
Right.
And I'm anointed by the Lord. I should stand with my country.
True.
And I started praying for our country. Na pia nilikuwa naambia watu.
Right.
And so why? That's what happened. I prayed. Maandamano ikaisha.
Watu wezi amini maandamano ilistopishwa na mtoto mmoja, but that was just to jog your memory. Another video of him has surfaced online. Sijui ni alini, but mimi nimeiona jana, and the clip has sparked a very interesting debate. Mtumishi and his mom were doing a worship service online, and while in the spirit, he sends his mother for a glass of water.
Can you give me water to Papa? And I begin to tell God.
First thing I could not get my head around was, mama mchungaji alifuata amri ya roho ama ya mwana. Na mimi hata kitu imenichanganya zaidi kwa hiyo video after kuiona, sijui sasa kati ya Victor na mamake nani ndio mtume. And can you get me some water tafadhali? Na mama yake akaamka akaendea. Then he goes ahead and starts singing, if I could get anything. Kwanza I think that's the wrong song. After kupiga hiyo sipi ya maji, angekuwa what a friend we have in Jesus. And people also pointed out how after kutuma mama yake maji, mchungaji talks about how he has been asking God to give him this one thing that he does not have.
I want you to give me something tonight. I keep on asking God for discipline.
In short, the apostle is trying to tell us that hata Mungu anajua hananga adabu. And the video has elicited mixed reactions, and the criticism is understandable because kutoka kitambo wa Kenya hawajaitaka kuona mchungaji akipewa maji. But then again, someone could argue that this is like a repeat of the Bible times where Jesus asked for water from a Samaritan woman, alafu the Samaritan woman akakataa kwanza. So Victor's mom did not even think twice. So in today's context, Mama Victor ni msamaria mwema. Now, mambo ya religion ni ngumu sana. I believe in God personally, but the situation in the country is now getting very tricky to navigate. Several weeks later, we have not even made sense of Pastor Mackenzie and the whole Shakahola debacle. This week, Kwanzaa, there's a new development. The government is now seeking for a court order to force Mackenzie's followers to eat juu amekataa kukula kabisa. Can you imagine that? The government is seeking the intervention of the courts to get Mackenzie supporters to eat by force. Hiki kitu ni unbelievable. Wacha niseme na Kiswahili ndio isink. Serikali imesikia kuna watu wanakataa kukula pande za coast, so imeenda kwa court ndio walazimishwe wakule food. Which is confusing because the rest of us are willing to eat. But it's like, as the haters say, the same government is doing everything to make sure we can't afford to eat. Now, could this be the secret to hacking the difficult times? What if there is free food? What if everything is available, the government just wants us to play hard to get? Labda siri ya kusurvive these hard times ni reverse psychology. Afande sikuli na sikuli. Anatoa bunduki na kotoda. Kijana nimesema ugongewe mayai mbili hapo na ama uone cha mtema kuni. Na hizi ni vitu tunasema hapa kama jokes, na kuna watu wamai gongewa mayai na makarao by force. In other news, a landlord in Kisii is reported to have chopped off a tenant's fingers over 500 shillings rent arrears. This has to be the most twisted version ya kukata balance. When you hear that story mara ya kwanza, hata unaweza fikiria that's a thing. Like in Kisii, ukikosa kulipa rent, landlord anajua mahali atakata. Kwanza ukikutana na mtu na wheelchair, tie buda maze, kwani umeingia on compound? Juana vidole zote za miguu. And this is new level stuff. Inamaanisha we really have to be specific. Ukisikia mtu Kisii anasema anakatiwa na landlord, tie buda maze. Umesikia Mbarambamba ameacha kuvaa open shoes vile aliingia 2 bedroom. Now, I know the cost of living has gone high everywhere in the globe, but I now can confirm that a rent in Kisii can cost you an arm and a leg. Unakutana msee mazee anatembea na crutches, you be like, "Eh, mazee pole sana. Kwani what happened?" Mazee nilihama wakanikata deposit. To good news now, Father's Day was celebrated this past Sunday, and one of the highlights has to be nominated Senator Karen Nyamo's decision to buy Samido a bottle of liquor worth 420,000 shillings. While the amount may seem too high for some people, it's not the first time pombe may cost Karen Nyamo juu ya Samido. Elsewhere, a hospital in Uganda is offering almost 400,000 Kenya shillings for information on their stolen ambulance. And not to support the crime, but I must admit that it's a very clever concept for a thief to steal an ambulance. So, not to sell it, but aende akaibe nayo as a getaway vehicle during robberies, because you've got to appreciate the genius here. Ukienda kuiba na ambulance, alafu ushikwe, unapigwa mob justice karibu na emergency services. And it's interesting because if the robbery is successful, you ride in the front. Kikiumana, unabebwa nyuma. Either way, unaponea. And the interesting twist about how the ambulance was stolen is that it wasn't stolen at the hospital. A doctor had driven it home, ikaibiwa akiwa kwake. Yani, ignore the rumors that Kenya ambulance hubeba makaa primarily. Hizo ni hate speech. Primarily ni za kubeba wagonjwa. UG ambulance ni kama taxi ya madaktari. And this is a very interesting flex. What other personal errands does this doctor run with the ambulance before it was stolen? Now, I can imagine him as a parent. Imagine mzazi wako akikukujia closing day na ambulance jua vile umeanguka mtiani. And now such incidents speak volumes about the health sector. And as we make fun of UG, our very own health sector in Kenya has its own share of problems. Our guest for this episode deserves a lot of credit for major reforms in the nursing sector, but she's too humble to accept them. I met her on a different health project months ago, but her insights about nursing, maze, are too interesting to ignore. I couldn't wait for the day we could get her on the show, and I still can't wrap my head around how very little things can determine whether someone leaves the hospital dead or alive. And this is one of those episodes now, Bianga, trust me, you don't want to miss this. An avid storyteller who quit a job in the banking sector to be a career nurse. Well, she has agreed to come on the show and share with us an unknown side of probably Kenya's most unsung heroes. If we can get her to share at a half of the stories ameniambia, this will be one of the best episodes you have ever seen on the Wicked Edition. Madam Joy Noreh is in the house. Thank you. Asante sana. She's joining us on the other end of this short commercial break. See you in a bit. Wicked Edition, I'm your host, Dr. Kingori. First of all, hii episode ya leo itaanza na confession. To make fun of nurses on the show so much that it almost got personal, but it was all jokes. Leo, nurses have never, I dare say, you'll prove me right or wrong, have never gotten better representation on a platform kama hii yenye tumetengeneza na nyinyi. Guest wetu wa leo quit her job as a banker, akaenda kukuwa nurse na akona story ya kutoka hapo. Madam Joy Noreh is in the house. Karibu. Asante. Karibu sana. Sisi tukigrow, most people, the top jobs ilikuwa pilot, lawyer, doctor, and banker. Ilikuwa banker because of the money. You quit your job as a banker and you took a pay cut. Why?
After Form 6, I was admitted at University of Nairobi to do Bachelor of Arts. I didn't understand what I was going to do after. Yes. Qualifying as a Bachelor of Arts graduate. So I decided to go and work at the bank.
Yes, yes, yes.
I was at Queensway, Barclays Bank then.
Yes, yes, yes.
But then I didn't get job satisfaction. After 3 months, I wasn't satisfied. So I quit banking and went in to join nursing as a Kenya registered nurse at Kenyatta Hospital.
Yes, yes, yes.
I enjoyed the training. Okay. It was extensive. You see, in nursing, we are taught just 3 basic things, and they are extensive. You see, it is efficiency practice, best practice. So we are taught a nurse is an educator because we are supposed to do teaching, we are supposed to do an assessment, and we are trained to be evaluators.
Evaluators.
So, yes. So within that, we get a lot of intensive training, and that's why nurses, even who go out of this country, are very honored. And the nurses who are practicing what they were taught, we are actually enjoying nursing. At 62, I'm still enjoying nursing.
And according to public perception, you mentioned that nurses are trained on 3 things. So, kati ya teaching na assessment, ni wapi rudeness inaingia?
We are not taught, there's no rudeness. The public assumes we are rude. And it is not because a nurse is born rude or trained rude. A nurse is a very assertive person. They are very assertive and very firm, and it's not very easy to bend a nurse. And that's why when you try to bend the understanding of a nurse,
yes,
or what they believe is right,
yes,
is when you will assume that the nurse is rude. Okay. Otherwise, the nurses are the most friendly people,
yes,
and they understand science so easily. Because a nurse, you see, after that training, after now the 3-year training course, they're supposed to understand the pharmacology,
yes,
they are understanding the laboratory issues,
yes,
the clinical issues brought about by the doctors, and also the medical issues that are presented by the patient. So you see, you have to be very broad and with good understanding,
yes,
to be able to understand all those aspects of medical,
yes,
without confrontation. But sometimes people assume that a nurse does not have a brain. For your information, Dr. Kingori, nurses are extremely brilliant. In this country, they are brilliant, and they do exploits.
Okay.
I'm one of those who do exploits.
Congratulations are in order, and thank you for responding to all the haters wa KMTC. All those who hate on KMTC, mumesikia, it's not easy to bend a nurse. Now, so you have very beautiful stories of how you got to your journey as a nurse and why you got to quit. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
What is it the bone that broke the camel's back?
Kind of, yes. You see,
in public, yes. You're still a nurse, but in public service, yes.
Yes. I qualified as a nurse in 1985. And I was, one time, while working at Kakamega Provincial Hospital, it's now a county hospital.
Yes.
I was the nurse in charge of the whole hospital on night duty. And there came a mother pregnant with twins. That is a risk pregnancy. And we didn't have strapping. A strapping that costs 15 bob.
Yes.
That time it was costing 15 shillings. You see, a nurse is trained to understand. A nurse is trained in administration, and they know how far they can go. And so it was that I have to recommend that this patient goes to Kisumu, which is more than 45 kilometers away. The road was rough, full of potholes, and it was not going to work out because she was supposed to be going in for cesarean section and kind of delayed already. And there's no mere strapping, a piece of strapping. I decided that I will ask the people who are supposed to supply the hospital with the strapping to do it. I requested the medical superintendent to organize for us to get strapping because it was around midnight.
Yes.
Because he had the power to get to the store or to order the storeman to come or the pharmacy that supplies the hospital with strapping. And he told me not to bother him. I knew the patient came first, and he was the maximum person or the ultimate person who could have ordered that. So I decided to call friends, a friend in Nairobi. And that friend called his friend in Kakamega, who called the provincial commissioner to ask the district commissioner, who was the chairman of the board, the
all
medical
these processes
board.
To get an item, 15 bob.
Yes.
You could not improvise.
You can't improvise a major surgery, on a major surgery. It was going to be, it was a cesarean section. How do you strap it back?
So at this point, didn't the hospital know that someone is going to give birth and they may need that strapping?
They knew there was an impending cesarean section, but nothing had been done during the day.
Okay.
And there it was. We were given the handover report that we have cesarean section. We are waiting for strapping, and that is 6 p.m. Being told we are waiting for strapping.
And what is this time that you're calling the med?
1 a.m.
So from 6 p.m., Kituya 15 Bob has not been delivered.
That was true. So I decided, the DC was ordered by the provincial commissioner to ask the pharmacist that used to supply the hospital to give us the strapping. And they brought it in the morning. I was told I had worked the whole night. And this is 8 a.m. when everybody has come, the administrators have come. I was meant to write a note or to report why I had asked the DC. I had woken up the DC to provide a strapping. Okay. Now it switched from the pharmacist to the DC. I still wrote down and I was reprimanded for it.
Okay.
But there we had the twins and the mother safe.
Born safely.
Yes, they were safe and they were not even in ICU. They were in the general ward. Can
you be a nurse with too much experience that you become a doctor?
No, nurses, you know, when you choose to be a nurse, nursing is very exciting. You don't need to be a doctor. You just be a nurse, and there is no competition about it. The nurses, you see, if everybody was to follow their line, and nurses know their lane, they know the lane they are supposed to follow. Because in our practice and teaching or training, we are taught who a nurse is. So a nurse is not going, and they have never pretended to become doctors.
That's fine.
Yes.
But the end goal is the same, like getting people to be well.
Yes, right? all of you, nurse, doctor, pharmacist, lab technologist, the cleaner, the cook, all of you have to work together to have that. The shortcut is, or the ultimate is that patient. You are all working around the patient.
Which is
Therefore,
fine.
there is no senior person beyond another.
That's fine.
Yep.
So if you have treated malaria for 20 years, right?
Yep.
You can't independently treat a malaria patient after seeing different variations and different people being treated of malaria. You know the procedure. You cannot treat malaria.
It depends where you are doing it. You see, in the opening
so there are places where a nurse can be a doctor. That's what.
No, there is.
A nurse is a doctor depending on the environment.
No, that is not the fact. The fact is, the nurse is empowered. The training in Kenya is Kenya registered community health, and that word community empowers a nurse, licenses a nurse to practice in and out of hospital. The community is not only in the hospital, it's not institutional based only.
Yes.
Community means everywhere. You can practice nursing everywhere. And that's why nurses have saved a lot of lives in this country. And nurses are, you see, when I said about their taught assessment, within assessment, in the nursing process, we are permitted, authorized, and licensed to diagnose.
You're also a fertility expert.
Yes.
You have someone who has 6 daughters and 1 boy, uko kwa last born, right? So apparently there's a science to it, away from trial and error. Let's start with the natural science of getting a baby boy or a baby girl. Sure bet.
I will not say there is 100% sure bet. The most sure way is science-based. We have a sperm sorting machine, whereby you will know
men
this is
this side,
men this side and women this side. Why do we have that? There are certain diseases, which I'll not name now, that are related to gender. There are also some families that have bitter experience, and let's say in Kenya and in certain tribes within our Kenyan community, you find that there are some communities that if you have 5 girls, you will have to maybe leave that marriage. So why should people who have stayed maybe 20 years, 15 years, have issues in their marriage just because of the children God has blessed them with? We can still, and you don't need to have 20 children just looking for one boy. So, and you know, boys or girls are determined by the sperm, not the egg. So, but the women are always...
It is the man who determines whether the child is a boy or a girl.
Yes, and the women are blamed for the gender of the child. So, get solution. And the solution is let people have what they want.
And how do people have what they want?
But you do sperm sorting. If they have that challenge, maybe they wanted 2 children, boy and girl, and now they have 3 girls, for instance. You simply, and they come to you, how do we do it? You cannot tell them try and error, because maybe baby number 2 they tried and baby number 3 was an error.
There's no sure bet, like there are things that if you follow, you'll get a boy or a girl.
It's not 100%. But when you do sperm sorting, you are very sure. And if you are not extremely sure about that, then you can go further by doing a genetic assessment, pre-genetic screening to be of the embryo, to be very sure, 100% sure, because the manufacturers of the new generation sequencer insist that it will be 99.9. So if it goes wrong, you are within the 0.01%.
So even science can still go wrong?
Yes, it can, but not as much as just try and error.
Before we let you go, what do you think would make a difference in the public health sector?
Number 1 is empower the nurses. Allow them to practice.
Nurses have powers.
They have powers, but they are kind of controlled, curtailed, squeezed. I don't know the harsh word to use, until when those like me who were up, we say, no, I'm not going to go on. That's why I had to quit. I came to Kibera to start my private practice.
And
Kibera
you were arrested for immunization?
Yes, I was arrested several times, 5 times. Kilimani police station knew I was coming every Sunday. Even every Sunday afternoon I used to, that was way back in 90s.
When was this that you were using the police station as your Airbnb?
That's a good one. That was way back in 1997.
Okay.
Yes.
Ah.
And they used to arrest me because, and the crime that I was alleged to have committed was, or rather the crime that I was committing was vaccinating over the weekends, because that was not allowed in Kenya that time.
Vaccinating over the weekends?
Yes, to vaccinate a child over the weekend, it was a crime. And I used to do it because what prompted me to start doing it was something so simple. You see, I told you nurses are to evaluate. That's part of our training.
Yes,
so 1999, I noticed that around the month of May, we used to have children dying. Then 97, I noticed, also early 97, I noticed we used to have a certain time when the children were dying. And the incident was a baby was brought in, had just died out of measles, and the father this gentleman sent his wife to go and pick a bag, and he put that child, he squeezed that warm dead baby on his knee so that the baby could fit in a travel bag. The reason was he could not afford the cost of a funeral in Nairobi. They went up country, because he eventually came back to tell me in the clinic that I had to go. I had to go home and bury my baby. I cannot and I will not be able to afford a funeral in Nairobi. That is the time I said, I will vaccinate them. And I used to vaccinate them for free. And I used to use my facility. I used to pay the nurses to help me vaccinate, and I used to vaccinate them for free. And I used to be arrested for doing that 5 times.
That's a very sad story, but just curious. Yes. What was the reasoning behind, this is the last thing, the reasoning behind not vaccinating children over the weekend? Kwani vaccines have alcohol?
No. The thing was, you see, policies need to be reviewed all the time. It was not a law. It was a policy, and therefore that's why I challenged it. Okay. A policy you can challenge. There used to be a policy that vaccinations is Monday to Friday, 8 to 12. And these slum women are looking for food between 7 and 5 p.m. So when are they going to take the children for vaccinations? You see?
Okay.
They were not able to take the children for vaccination, so I decided to step in. And that's why I used to be arrested.
Thank you for the insights on nursing.
Thank you.
Wapi makofi yake? Thank you very much. That's it for the Wicked Edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. Kingori.